Hello Cherries fans, hope you're doing well this Monday, and thank you for tuning in, whether you're listening via the audio pod or you're watching on YouTube. We truly appreciate your time as we talk about AFC Bournemouth for the next hour. My name's Sam Davis.
My name's Tom Jordan.
And we are pleased and privileged to be joined this week by Jack Tanner, sports reporter for the Daily Echo. Jack, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good after the weekend, yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It must be refreshing to report on a win, isn't it?
Yeah, everyone's a lot happier, certainly, especially the form Cherries have been in. So not quite a relief lifted, I think, because I think everyone's kind of aware what the situation is. But yeah, it's definitely a confidence booster for sure.
Absolutely. And it's an episode of unpopular opinions and controversial takes today. We'll fill you in with what we mean a bit later on. If you follow us on Twitter, you'll know what that's all about, and also on Facebook. But Gary O'Neill clocked up his first win as AFC Bournemouth manager as permanent head coach on Saturday with a 1-0 win against Wolverhampton Wanderers, a result that, when looking at the league table, puts us above the dotted line. Tom, that feels good, doesn't it?
Never in doubt. Yeah, no, it does feel good, particularly when I think it was hard to try and celebrate the goal, and then you see that Southampton are winning and you're thinking this is even more pivotal now. And obviously with the run we got coming up as well, it was crucial for us to get above that dotted line before this run. And I think with the next three that everyone knows about, if we can be within touch, I don't expect us to be out of the bottom three come the next three, but if we're in touching distance and we're well in it, then I'll be really happy. But it did feel must win, didn't it? It did feel like that. And at half time I certainly didn't think that was going to be the case, but credit to everyone, they dug in, and I think probably overall, as much as we weren't brilliant, we probably earned it because we kept Wolves at bay quite comfortably. So pleasing, mate. 4 points out of the last two games. What's the problem?
What's the problem? Now, Tom, you know that when we upload videos to YouTube, we've got a 100 character limit on our titles, and we try to squeeze in as much as we can. If you had a lot less than that, I'm talking about 20 characters, say 5 or 6 words, what headline would you use to sum that up? Because you haven't seen what Jack's put here.
You've just thrown me right on the last hour.
How would you describe the game?
Sum up the game is, you're going to have to count the words. I'm not sure. I'll go with not the best watch, but dogged performance and crucial result.
Mate, how many characters?
That's all right.
Yeah, that is. All right, so Jack Tanner's gone with a smash and grab victory in the Echo. Make sure you either read it in print or check it out on the website, bournemouthecho.co.uk. And Jack, it was a smash and grab, wasn't it? Because that first half, we sort of seemed to ride out a storm, but it was a game of two halves as well, because in the second we were a lot better and we got a goal, and then we clung on to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say 5 minutes, probably first 2 minutes, looked all right, and it kind of felt like the same kind of attitude as we've seen in recent weeks, in terms of, especially going forward. Then Wolves just got the ball and just kind of kept Cherries hemmed in, but you've got to give the side credit for getting through that. I know Gary O'Neill came out afterwards and was a little bit critical of how easy the counter-attacks broke down. That was the main frustration in the first half. But you've got to take your chances. You get literally one shot on target. I don't even think that Marcus Tavernier knew too much about it in the end. Get the goal, you just dig in and defend, because it didn't really feel like Wolves had anything particularly to unlock Cherries. So you've got to give, again, credit for Cherries for getting a clean sheet. It's massive.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get into the nuts and the bolts of the game very, very shortly. And of course, we'll go through your unpopular opinions too. But as you may have seen, you probably know this by now, we're recording this at the Basement Studio, located in the centre of Bournemouth. They cater to musicians like Tom. Okay. I say musicians, you can sing a bit on a match day. Producers like me, voice actors and podcasters. Tom, you're not a podcaster, are you?
Maybe.
But if you're looking for a professional environment to record, mix and master, their studio, it offers a spacious live room with a separate vocal booth and a comfortable mixing room as well. They provide a range of services and packages to aid you in your creative endeavour. Plus, the studio next door to us, there's a little recording booth. If you want to be a singer for a day, it's got the Wanna Be a Star party experience. Perfect for kids' birthdays, hen-dos and all that malarkey. wannabeastar.co.uk. So, we've seen the league table already. The baseline tracker table, which tracks where we are and how many points we're down. -6, but then Southampton also pulled a win out of the bag. the weekend. How annoying was that?
It was annoying. I mean, to be fair, they're below us anyway, and we need to look up if we're going to stay up. Yeah. So yeah, kind of put it into context there. But it was frustrating, especially when you watch Match of the Day back and think, how did Chelsea not score? I think the more frustrating thing is just looking back, you go and I think I said to someone, I said, oh, it's such a shame we haven't got Chelsea around the corner. And I thought, well, actually we did. And we just, there's one of their only wins in God knows how long. So, and I remember saying at the time that Chelsea are, they're not right at the moment. They're all over the place because he's got so many players that he don't know what to do with them. I mean, they're virtually playing, it's like pre-season. They're like making 5 changes and like changing the whole team by the end of the game. And I felt like when we went there, we kind of went, oh, it's Chelsea, and kind of played the name rather than the actual team that were performing or lack of performing. So it did surprise me because of Southampton's form, but then having thought about it a bit more, I thought, actually, Chelsea isn't, you know, you look at Chelsea and go, well, that's a defeat for Southampton, but really, it'd be harder if they were playing a Brighton or a Fulham, or, do you know what I mean, on form and league position. So, yeah, it was a shame for us. A real shock that it was a Ward-Prowse free kick as well, because they normally score from so many other areas. Yes, that was a blow, but it just meant that the win felt more important, actually, because I just thought it's easy to go, oh, it's so typical, but equally, imagine if we hadn't won. And the Everton one, listen, it's frustrating, but one of them, they were either both going to get a point, or one of them was going to win, and to be honest, I think Everton will be fine with Dyche, and I actually think Leeds is one that's we're more capable of catching. We're above them at the moment, but more chance of finishing above them if they don't get the appointment right. So I want 2 to start with that. Forest point a little bit annoying against City, but they seem okay. But I think what was nice, we pull Wolves in a little bit, because if they had beaten us, they would have felt like they were uncatchable. Even teams like, I look at it, and teams like Leicester losing, you know, you want to keep them in there. I know they feel like Leicester shouldn't go down, or Forest probably won't go down now, but I think a lot of people are saying that about West Ham, and suddenly now West Ham are in the bottom 3. So yeah, I think it's important to keep pulling teams in, and yeah, looking at kind of Palace's fixtures, they got some tough fixtures. Let's get another team in there, and let's give ourselves the best chance. But it was frustrating to see Southampton win, just because Southampton won. I never want them to win.
We saw the team lineup announced at 2, and one of the notable parts was the return of Marcus Tavernier. Now, Jack, when you go to the Vitality Stadium on Friday and you hear Gary Neal say his thing, is it frustrating to hear him say the usual things like he's back on the grass or he's close, and you're always wondering, yeah, but is he? Like could he be named? How close is he?
Yeah, one thing that Gary Neal definitely is, and the biggest thing I noticed between pre-match and post-match pressures, pre-match he's extremely guarded, and then post-match he comes out and says quite a lot. No one even asked him about injuries after Wolves, but he came out saying, oh, Lewis Cook looks a lot better, Lloyd Kelly looks a lot better. He's, and even like tactically, he very much doesn't like to give anything away, which is fair enough. We've kind of learned that you can't push him too much, because you're just going to get the same. But we had a feeling that Tavernier would be involved again. He looked not 100% against Newcastle, as you probably expect, and then the same against Wolves. And again, O'Neill came and said that after the game, saying that he still has to catch up to full fitness. But really, the only way you're going to get full match fitness is by playing football. So, and also, it's just a confidence for him. So I reckon Tavs comes back right before the break, right before his injury. He's finally hit form, finally found the back of the net, finally grabbing assists. Injury comes at the worst possible time for him. So I think just to get a goal, even if he isn't playing at his best, is just going to give him big boost of confidence.
A few people on Twitter said that Gary Neal came across very, very calm, much calmer than usual on Friday, and very relaxed, whereas previously he's maybe been a bit tense. Do you know why that could be? Or
I didn't notice anything. Like, he normally comes in and says hello, quite jovial character, and like I said, very guarded pre-match. But the one thing, like we said, it's even when the form and performances weren't very good, and there was fans, quite a bit of unrest of the fans, there was never a single noise from the club. When he was asked about it post Brighton, I think it was, by Jordan Clark, he came out and said he was comfortable and didn't want to talk about his future. I think he very much knows that he's in a comfortable situation.
Yeah.
He knows what he's been tasked to do. He knows that results perhaps wouldn't have cost him his job at all. So I think there's that calmness there. But he was level-headed afterwards as well. To be fair, I don't want to say emotional. He's emotional after games, but he does himself. He does always talk after a match, wanting to look at the game that's just happened without emotion, which he'll do in the days following. So I think he's quite a level-headed guy, but especially after a game, he can be a little bit more open, a little bit more talkative, and kind of show not his true colours, but give his opinion a bit more.
I do think, I was just about to say, I wonder with the perception, like you said, about on Twitter, about it coming across more relaxed before the Wolves game. And I thought, I wonder if subconsciously or in the back of his head, he was thinking, if this goes wrong against Eddie Howe, who they love, this could get a bit of a circus and they'll just be chanting for Eddie. And if we go like a couple goals down, they'll be anti-me and they'll be all for Eddie and we want you back. And because we performed and got a result, that kind of almost calmed everything down. There wasn't any kind of O'Neill out stuff, which I believe potentially could have happened if we had at home. So I wonder if that just made him go, oh, I got away with that home game we performed, and that it could have been a tricky time. So that might be part of it, I wonder, because I agree. I don't think there was anything major, but he did seem quite comfortable. But like Jack says, I think quite often he does seem quite a level-headed character, doesn't he? I mean, everyone does after Scott Parker anyway.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting that Jack says afterwards he tries to take the emotion out of it, and we all know that you're that type of character on the post-match fan cams. No swearing, no cussing, no emotion. You're just a level-headed guy, aren't you, Tom?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm always calm.
But we'll talk about how we felt at full time later on. When you saw the team, pretty much as expected, although we were kind of wondering Tavernier or Anthony, or Ouattara, or obviously he's got a load of choices that he can do, but he went with Tavernier. We thought he might be a bit rusty. And in the first half, I thought he did all right. He went on a few runs, but just I think the whole team were just guilty of no end product. And in the final third, everything just seemed to break down all the time. Yeah,
that's what it felt like. I think in the predicted lineup, I just went unchanged, but I think I might have caveated it in there, thinking I wouldn't be shocked if Tav come in for either Ouattara or Jayden. I was a bit surprised it was Jayden, maybe, but I can see why he played Tav. And I also think that the Adama Traore factor might have played a part, just that Jay-Z was going to be on. You saw in the first half, they were aiming for him every time. So maybe Tav is used to playing wing-back as well, and he just had a bit of support. But yeah, like you say, mate, I thought, I like the fact that we offer a threat on the break now, because we've got a bit of genuine pace in there. But as you say, and I think Gary said it as well, it just kept breaking down. Like every time we broke, you thought we're in, and that decision-making, maybe a lack of confidence and things like that, and rustiness, as you alluded to with Tav in particular, because he was having one first half in terms. I think he gave the ball away in a really dangerous area as well, but it was everything he was doing was like, oh, this is great, we could have Tav back, but then that final piece was missing, also from Dom, also from Ouattara. It was all breaking down. But I looked at it more positively, that at least we were offering something for them to worry about. My main concern was how much domination they had of the ball. I am aware we're not going to have. I'll be very surprised if a game this season we have more of the ball than the opposition, to be honest. So I'm aware of that, but it felt first half a little bit like we were playing with fire a little bit, because it did feel like it's a matter of time there, and because of our set piece record, I don't know how many corners they had first half.
Oh, it felt like loads, yeah.
But what I will say is, this time, we were defended. I mean, every header, whether it's Senesi, Solanke, Lerma, Stevens, we were winning everything from corners. So, apart from when Neto flat for one. But, I was content, but I did think at half-time, if this keeps going the way it will, there's only one player.
I'm going to bring in Mike Lowe. We're going to do some controversial opinions. I'll bring in mine straight away. We'll do it right. Neto is no better than Travers. Okay, I'm going to caveat that, right? Yeah. I'm going to caveat my own point. I think Neto's distribution is really, really good. But in the last 3 games, and also his shot stopping as well is incredible as well. But in the last 3 games, there have been 3 moments that are so close to have nearly cost us the game. Brighton, what he was doing with that pass out straight to, was it Undav?
Undav was the one that had the chance, yeah.
How they didn't score that, I don't know. And it took another interception to get rid of that. Newcastle shot from St Maximin that wasn't overly powerful, actually. Spilt it. He did better with that shot in the sort of closing stages of the Wolves game. That was, I thought, very impressive. And then the corner comes in where he flaps, and I think it was maybe Ouattara on the line that had to clear it. It's just like... Is that a controversial take?
It is a controversial take, because we've... statistically, I think there's been a few stats for it. Like Neto's, compared to Travers is different level. I think Travers won't be out by the 9-0 at Liverpool, by the way, on any stat. But I agree with what you're saying in that sense. I think you'd probably agree, Sam, that if you said, okay, who do you want as your goalkeeper, you'd still say Neto.
Yeah.
But the point you're making is bang on, because if as you said, the 3 you've just mentioned, don't need to mention them again, but that's in the last 3 games, 1 in each. If the opposition are more clinical, he makes an error in 3 games in a row, and everyone will be calling for him to be dropped, because that's the life of a goalkeeper. Fortunately, every single error he's made, we've dealt with it. But it hasn't been... I mean, and he's made some decent stops in games, and I agree, distribution-wise, much better than Travers, and I think leadership qualities, and also the fact that we've got a lot of new players in that speak different languages, he's obviously able to do that. I think it helps, and I think the back 4 seem more settled with Neto behind them. But the point of him making errors and them just not being punished is there. It's factual, I think.
Was who scored man of the match, by the way? Neto.
He didn't have anything to do.
He was the man of the match.
He had 4 saves. And
None of them were. Yeah.
What algorithm they use for that, but he got 8, and whereas the others were like 7.5s or a few 6s in there, but he got man of the match. So maybe I am wrong. Another person that probably deserves a bit of praise is Jack Stevens. We'll come on to him shortly. I was just wondering, in the press box where you are, Jack, do you have like the local radio commentators around you so you can hear what they're saying?
I had locals around me for this one.
Okay.
I'm on you. Literally, I was the last row of the press box, and I had 2 Wolves season ticket holders right behind me. It was an experience.
Yeah.
But I had like the monitor, the replays here, and they kept on leaning over and having a look and screaming at every decision. They were very unimpressed with the time wasting and game management, which I personally found very, very ironic, because if there's one team in the Prem the past few seasons that go down easy, time waste, it is Wolves. Yeah. I turned around at one point and said, if you've had a season ticket for longer than 5 seasons, you surely have seen this every week. But yeah, that was a bit odd. But yeah, sometimes you can hear them out. But the general feeling from Wolves was they just didn't offer anything. Yeah. Even post-match, a few of their reporters kind of asked their manager, what do you make of the time wasting?
Yeah.
And he came out and said, no matter how much time there was, pretty much, they didn't really look like scoring, and he was annoyed at how they went about chasing the game. So for the most part, I did kind of feel that Wolves, like their reporters, accepted that they didn't deserve to get anything from it.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say, because if you can hear the local like media doing their radio commentaries and so, you probably get a vibe of what they think of the game. And to me, it sort of felt like they had lots of the ball. They got into dangerous areas, but they didn't actually do much with it. And as Tom said, like Neto really didn't have to do much. I think that it was poor from Bournemouth, but equally, whilst we were poor, Wolves didn't do much really.
It felt deliberate, especially when he brought Mepham on. Like sometimes you can view that substitution and go, "Oh, he's sitting back and defending," but very much kind of they brought Diego Costa on, and they just kind of thought, "Well, whip the ball into the box." I don't remember him particularly winning a header. Because in the first half, Mateus Nunes kept just popping up in tons of space in the box. Yeah, and second half, that didn't happen at all. So, yeah, I guess the Mepham substitution paid off because Wolves just doubled down on the crossing game. And we have seen quite a few times that Meps, Jack Stevens especially, surprised the guy has got a concussion, the amount of headers he's had in the past few games. They are pretty good when they do go into a back 3 and have crosses whipped into the box. That is bread and butter for them.
Yeah.
So if they can kind of force games towards that direction where they defend in that situations, I think going forward, because even first game of the season under Parker against Villa, they had to dig deep at the back. I know Kiefer Moore was coming back and winning headers in the area. So in that sense, yes, you invite a lot of pressure on. I think, like, for example, Nottingham Forest away, Lloyd Kelly, that penalty happens because they're sitting deep, chucking bodies in front of the ball. So it does have its downsides, but it very much does seem, Jack Stevens especially, quite comfortable in those situations, which you need in like scrappy games like that. You need to have a well-drilled defence.
Yeah. My kind of concern, because I totally agree, and I think in some of these games that are a little bit more like this and a bit tight, and we need to dig in and defend crosses. I understand it, because I back our players from crosses, to be honest with you, especially with Stevens in there now. My concern is our next 2 in particular, against City and Arsenal, they won't put many crosses in. And if we sit that deep, they'll just have more room to manoeuvre and play them little clever passes and have them runners in behind. And that's maybe my concern a little bit, is if we sit deep against teams with that quality, we might struggle, because I can't see Arsenal City just lumping balls into the box. Do you know what I mean? But against Wolves, at the time, obviously it's nervy, but I did really understand it. They had Jimenez and Costa come on, and they were just chucking in the box, so it kind of made sense, I guess, to just chuck Mepham on, who's pretty decent in the air as well. So yeah, it did make sense.
Jack Stevens' touch map was all right. Bournemouth put it on their Twitter. He was a rock, wasn't he?
Cornish Maldini. Oh, Daniel Davis put that. I love it. He's been superb, hasn't he? He's just. I think I said to you, Sam, like little reminders of Steve Cook actually a little bit, in the sense that probably not the best on the eye, or like your modern defender who plays out and is all quite silky and stuff like that. But I'll tell you what, he'll block stuff, won't he? He'll just chuck himself in front of things. Just solid, brave, no nonsense. And some of his clearances or just kick it out were actually more considered, I thought, and he got us out quite nicely. His distribution was pretty decent. So yeah, I just feel we look a little bit more comfortable with him there. He's really grabbed the shirt and said, Meps, you ain't having it back. Because let's be honest, Meps has been our best defender this season. He can't get in the team.
That's mad, isn't it?
And a lot of it's to do with partnerships, because I think Stevens obviously wants to play that right side and Mepham prefers that right side. And I think so that's why Senesi stayed. Because you could make a case for Mepham and Stevens, but I think Senesi and Stevens have formed a real partnership now. And I think Senesi's getting better with every game as well.
Heather, this is next unpopular opinion. Well, is it unpopular? Southampton have sealed their relegation fate by lending us Jack Stevens. He is mustard. And she says, oh, and it is a rivalry. But yeah, such a good performance from him, and it's really nice to see. I think defensively we were pretty solid, but a player that has come in for a little bit of criticism is Adam Smith. And you've got a reason why you think that is that we'll talk about. But a lot of people on the unpopular opinions we'll put these on screen. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see them at the bottom of your screen, or just check out our last tweet and then you can see what individuals are saying. But they're insinuating that he hasn't really got the legs for it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Gary Neal even came out post-match, and as he was discussing Jack Stevens, he mentioned how he was having to swing back around and cover Adam Smith quite a bit, which, watching the game, I know like there's so many things going on, my eyes weren't particularly drawn to that side of the pitch.
Nor mine, that's what
Don't really remember a specific attack. Maybe going forward and breaking down, that's like the one criticism I have of Adam Smith. But I just think Jack Stevens, the advantage he has over both Meps and Senesi is he's been in the relegation scrap quite a few times, as is normally the case at Southampton. And Adam Smith's the same. He's got that experience. He knows what to do. And there's a reason why he's still vice-captain, and he's well respected and is playing over Jack Stacey, even Ryan Fredericks coming back. I can see also the positives for Ryan Fredericks, especially counter-attacking his pace. We've seen it before him coming forward. When he is fit, of course, big question marks over how long he can actually remain fit. Even at West Ham, he struggled to string games together. But yeah, the Adam Smith criticism, I see it going forward, but defensively, I wasn't really sure what O'Neill was on about. I did go back and watch it, and yeah, there's a few, but Jay-Z, for example, got dragged out a few times, which is natural when you're against Adama Traore. So I don't think particularly it was on the fullbacks. But I can see, going forward, why people were a little bit critical of him, but I think he's just got that experience, especially defensively, that you need in this situation.
There's a reason why when fit, Eddie Howe, Jason Tindall, Jonathan Woodgate, Scott Parker, and now Gary Neal all play Adam Smith when he's fit. When's he on the bench? Very rarely on the bench. There's a reason for that. Also, it does feel, it annoys me a little bit. I do feel like if you look at kind of scapegoats or players that people have enough of, I think it's just because they want more excitement. It used to be Simon Francis, Andrew Sermon, Steve Cook. It's all the same ones, and it's just another one now. He's the long. They just people want to change. He's not the same Adam Smith probably, but yeah, I made the point to you that I think sometimes that you got to remember our left fullback is Zamora, who is very offensively minded. And I think a lot of teams are doing it now. I think, look at top of the league, Arsenal. Zinchenko bombs on, Ben White comes in, Tomiyasu comes in. And I think a lot of the time they know that Jay-Z needs that licence. So it's that elbow tactic that people talk about these days. And then so Smithy tucks in a little bit more. So he's not bombing on like he used to. I think it's an instruction. I don't think his legs are gone, personally. I think it's an instruction.
But it rarely happens the other way around, though. You'd think for balance that he would be doing the other way around, and then Zamora would be tucking.
I remember Forest away, I think it was, O'Neill's first win, wasn't it? and we half-time 2-0 down, took off Jay-Z. We actually moved Smith to left-back, I think, and brought on Fredericks, didn't we?
I think he tucked into right centre-back, didn't he?
Or maybe right centre-back, yeah, you might be right, yeah.
Fredericks was like right wing-back.
But Fredericks come on at wing-back, and we kind of reverted. We went, right now, let Fredericks bomb on, and we'll tuck in the other side. So I do think it's a bit of an instruction. I'm not saying, as I say, I don't think Adam Smith's the same player, but he's not going to be the same player. He's there's been a lot more years to him. But I agree with what Jack said. I think his experience is crucial. I do like the fact that our backup, no disrespect to Stacey, but our backup is Fredericks if fit, and he's got experience as well. But I think you're in danger of doing this if a player's perceived to not be on a good run or not performing regularly. You suddenly think their backup's a world beater. And you feel, you've got to play Fredericks, Fredericks has had a few alright games, but he also had some games where I thought, he's not that good, is he? I think Fredericks is going to play a part this season, and I quite liked, I think it was against Newcastle, where he switched them to, and I thought, it needs it now, needs a bit of that injection, and I think he's going to be handy for us, and he will start games as well as come on, but for me, no, I think it's too easy to just say, get Smith out. I think a lot of people are saying, he just gives the ball away. I think I looked, and players that play 90 minutes, it was only Billing that gave the ball away less than Adam Smith.
Okay.
I didn't think he gave the ball away. I couldn't remember him really ever giving the ball away. I think he's quite assured. He's not the most exciting for points we've made, but no, I'm happy with Smithy. He hasn't been 8, 9 out of 10, but I think he's always 6, 7. He's always pretty reliable. So yeah, I've got no doubts about Smithy continuing playing. Like I say, every manager plays him.
What I got really frustrated about in that first half, we'll come on to the goal, don't worry, we'll talk about it shortly. But
good, because I missed it.
Just the amount of times, you did miss it, of course you did. The amount of times that we got into the final third and just the ball broke down, like Tavernier seemingly having the run of the park, and then he played it to the left, and then the attack broke down, Dom Solanke going through, probably making the wrong decisions a couple of times, Tavernier having an air shot. Jack, it just... you can probably appreciate it from a Bournemouth fan that we were so frustrated that, like, in these little moments that we had, we just weren't good enough. And there are even people on one of the unpopular tweets that even questions Dom Solanke as well. So we got Robbie here saying, we undoubtedly look better with Solanke in the team, and his work rate is phenomenal, but he really is not a very good finisher, and we should be looking to upgrade in the summer if we stay up. 7 goals in 82 Premier League appearances, 8.3% goal conversion rate. Very low down the charts. Whew, controversial take.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, like, I asked Gary O'Neill something just about pressing, like the forward players pressing. Then he came out on this kind of long spiel about how they're asking Dom not to track back as much. And it does kind of feel like they're trying to coach Parker out of him, because he was very much Parker's archetypal striker for the way they played in the Championship. In terms of like the runs he makes. So I noticed that before his injury, sometimes he'd be running into channels and never was the ball ever coming, because he was still making the same runs as he was trying to make under Parker. But you've got to remember, did he equal... Well, if Mitrovic hadn't scored as many goals in the Championship, he would have equalled, I think, Tony's. It very much is... I can see where O'Neill was coming from, how Solanke contributes everywhere else. Like, the goal pretty much comes from him. I think it's such a good cross with such enough power. Tavernier doesn't have to do anything for it. There is an argument. I know O'Neill wasn't happy with his back heel against Newcastle, which I thought he scored a few of those. Like, it's pretty inventive. He doesn't miss enough chances for me to be concerned. I think for the price point of what Cherries will be able to pay and players will be interested, I think you can probably get a goal scorer, but then you're missing on what Solanke contributes elsewhere, especially in their shape. Cherries just look like they have a proper focal point. Players can bomb him better. And like I said, Solanke, even if he doesn't get the ball when he runs the channels, sometimes he does drag defenders out of the way, and that helps. So he's a very good all-round player. I think last year I wrote a piece kind of comparing him to Harry Kane, which sounds a bit ridiculous, but it's because he drops deep, gets on the ball, drives the ball forward, can pick out a pass. And I think really, if you have that aspect, you're not going to be able to find someone who can also contribute that and also score 20, 30 goals a season. I know, like Mitrovic, for example, he does contribute pressing-wise, but he's not the same sort of build-up player, which Cherries need. Fulham get by because they're structured in a way that allows them to get the ball to him quite often, but Cherries kind of rely on individuals in their attacking sense. So yeah, I can understand the criticism, but I think what he contributes apart from that means he's pretty vital.
Yeah, Tom, I'm not sure he is like Harry Kane, because he's won some silverware in the Betway Cup, hasn't
Well
he?
played. Yeah, no, he's definitely... his goals have been more important than any of Harry Kane's. I think I get it, and I think if you look at kind of stats and stuff, I get that as a striker in the Premier League, the record's not very good. I mean, he's been back up at most of his clubs, even was when we were in the Premier League before. He's never been a starter until this season in the Premier League, so I think it's a bit harsh. But what I will say is that we could get a poacher. I'm trying to think of a Danny Ings type player that you know is good at the back of the net. He would probably score more goals than Solanke, but the team wouldn't score as many, in my opinion. No chance. What he offers is the amount he offers outweighs the lack of goals, in my opinion. And I mean, this season there's no way you can drop him out the side because I mean, there's no one that scores as many goals anyway. We got Kiefer Moore, Semenyo could play for them, but they're not going to give you any more goals anyway, in my opinion. So yeah, I do kind of get it. I think it's always going to be a point. But you alluded to Tony there, and obviously what he did in the Championship was very similar to Dom, but obviously he's doing it in the Premier League. I do think if you put Dom Solanke in the Brentford team instead of Ivan Toney, Dom Solanke scores as many goals. I do believe that. I don't think we don't create anything. We create very little. He is feeding off scraps. He misses a few chances. How many does he actually get?
Not many.
But how many, as Jack said again, how many chances or goals do we score in the Premier League that he's a part of? We couldn't score a goal when he wasn't in the team. Yeah. When he's in the team, the whole team scores more goals because of the room he creates, the link-up play, etc., etc. If he got injured now to the end of the season, just start the Championship because we would have no chance. So I get the point, and if we obviously he did the question did say if we were to stay up, we need to upgrade, and I kind of get the point that if we were to stay up, I would want someone that can compete or play alongside Solanke. Maybe at a high level than a Kiefer Moore because I just don't think he suits us. But I do think Kiefer has good attributes. But yeah, I agree with maybe getting someone in to compete with him, just for numbers of goals, really.
Where we were in the stand, it was very difficult to see. Well, where you were, it was very difficult to see the goals. I'm not going to ask you to talk me through it. That's the second week in a row now where you haven't been able to do that. Jack would have seen it and also had the benefit of replays as well. I don't know about you, Jack. I had no idea whether Dom Solanke scored it, whether it took a touch, but it was a weird touch. It was like a thigh hip or whatever it was from Tavernier, wasn't it?
I went thigh.
Yeah.
I'm sticking to that. But yeah, it was pretty much out of nowhere. The start of the second half was okay. But yeah, Solanke gets to the byline. Again, how many Premier League strikers get into that situation where they get the ball from deep, whip it in, and it was a perfect ball. O'Neill gave credit to Tavernier. He's kind of saying that Tavs understands that you commit, you attack the space, whereas quite a few other players lurk around the penalty spot looking for the cutback. So it's right place, right time. So you've got to give credit for Tavs for the run, but the goal, again, comes from Solanke, really.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those, like, Saints of James Ward-Prowse to kind of produce a moment of magic. Again, Cherries are very individual-based when they attack. You mentioned how frustrating it was when counters break down. They're so, the players they brought in, they're so clearly invested on playing that transitional, hitting teams on the counter with pace, dribbling, driving. You can't really afford to keep on missing passes, so it's likely to get that pretty much perfect cross into the area, right place, right time. You have to give credit for it, really.
If I'm going to keep missing goals, you lot do need to be better at describing them. Like you said then, you didn't know why. I come up, someone went Tavernier header, then someone went Solanke scored. I
couldn't tell.
Did anyone see this goal? I mean, it wasn't just me that missed it, but yeah, I could see why looking at it back. It was flashed across, wasn't it? But I'm going to go with Fi as well. I'm going to go with Fi.
And we were at such a height though. It's just so difficult to get any perspective. It's just bizarre.
Yeah,
but it went in. Cue delirious scenes, but. You know, it felt like we were on top in the second half and we were getting into these really good positions. But in terms of the shots on goal, we're looking at the shots chalkboard from who scored at the moment. We didn't actually have many shots, but I think it's probably just better to be in those positions, isn't it? Because like we kept Wolves largely at bay. I mean, I think they're fans. I mean, Jack, quickly, coming back to you, if they were frustrated with the first half, they must have been more frustrated with the second.
I mean, yeah, I think it's 4 saves. I think their biggest chance was the Jack Stevens block right in the near post, which was sublime. And like I say, the first half they kept on finding space, and you kind of think, it's only a matter of time. Second half they just kind of not lost the plot, but it very much that performance from Wolves reminds me why they're definitely still in the relegation scrap. They're a team, as soon as it doesn't go right for them, the confidence drains out. They just resort to just pumping the ball into the box. And I think it's a result that will leave them kind of questioning because they're on a great run, really, considering where they were before Lopetegui comes in. Beating Liverpool, I know Liverpool kind of the Premier League's crisis club at the moment, them and Chelsea, but still to beat them 3-0 and in the FA Cup games, there certainly can be a good team. I think Wolves are in that bracket, same as West Ham, same as Leicester, where they have got the capability of beating teams above them, like top 6 teams, which perhaps Cherries haven't had this year. But I also think that result and that just general performance is one that will leave them questioning themselves. It could potentially spark a poor run of form for them.
Was it you said to me, Jack, before we come on that it reminded you of us against Southampton, and that was a great. I thought that's bang on, because we concede a goal kind of out of nowhere. I know it was earlier in the game, but we concede a goal out of nowhere, and then we huff and puff without doing anything. And Wolves are a team that I always describe as hot and cold. Like you said, they can blow teams away sometimes because they've got individual class, but also I feel like you can frustrate them and make them look very, very ordinary, and just allow people like Neves, who are quality players, to just knock the ball around and go, all right, you're not hurting us. So we managed to do that, so credit to us.
Like for like changes from O'Neill with the second half, which really worked. I was worried when Lerma went off, but it sounds like an illness of some kind. Rothwell replaced him. Also on 57, 58 minutes respectively, Jadon Anthony coming on for Tavernier, Semenyo for Ouattara. We made a couple of changes later on that I was worried about, but those 3 changes were positive, and they kept us having some good momentum, didn't they?
Yeah, bang on. I think I think he said that Lerma was ill before the game, wasn't he? And they went for it, and I was definitely concerned. Not just because Lerma's a good player, and I thought we had a good half actually, but just more you haven't got the same type of player coming on. But Rothwell actually went under the radar a bit. I thought he was very intelligent in the way he played the second half, and very calm, tidy, and kept us ticking.
Here's one for you.
Oh, go on.
Cameron, Jefferson Lerma is and has never been worth £25 million. Unpopular opinion.
It depends. In the current market, no one's worth what they get anyway, are they? But it depends. What do you want to do? Do you want to compare it to Cucurella, 50 million? Well, that means Lerma's worth 80. Do you know what I mean? So I think Lerma was well worth every single penny we spent on him, to be honest with you. I think he's been one of our most consistent players since he come through the door. But into the game, the subs were pretty bang on. I was not worried, because that sounds harsh on Christie, but I think you could tell that the wingers were getting changed, and I thought, is he just going to go safe? I thought Semenyo was bang on because it kept the pressure on him, didn't allow him out, and I thought he was brilliant when he come on for a little cameo. I thought Semenyo was clever with the ball, was good on transitions, and just keeping the pressure on him and not sitting too deep. So I was pleased with the subs, and we kind of went into the Mepham one, which I can see why it would frustrate many, and it did me at the time. But looking back on it did make sense, and I think Zamora just went down a few times, didn't he? And Vinya come on and was absolutely fine.
My heart rate was going through the roof as the game went on, but thankfully we managed to see it out there. Neto wasn't worth that much. That shot from distance they did well to hold on to. But other than that, we're looking at the average positions on screen if you're watching on YouTube, that shows the positions with the substitutes as well for both sides, and then the heat map as well. It's fair to say that overall we were camped pretty much in our half. Now, with that in mind, we've got an unpopular opinion that's come in from Daniel Jack, who said, even though we did win on Saturday, we did not deserve it. We were awful, barring a few instances. Wolves were very wasteful and could have scored at least 3 chances. We didn't deserve it? Is that a bit unfair? I think it is.
I'm a strong believer in the maxim of you don't deserve to win football matches if you don't score goals. Again, it wasn't brilliant, or wasn't like a well-worked goal, but it was just a good moment, wasn't it? But I think that there has to be credit for the fact that, especially compared from the first half, where Wolves were finding space in the box, they were kind of dragging players out of position, to the second half, which was a lot more well-drilled. The second half, especially, I know like towards the end, it's just natural, isn't it? In that situation where you kind of think, I refuse to put a top on the report, just to say Cherries picked up their first win. I was waiting till the final whistle to write that, just because I don't want to tempt fate. But in reality, actually, each time they had a cross and got ahead of the way, you kind of like, oh, yeah. So I do think perhaps overall the performance was probably not as good as Forest, Brighton, or Newcastle. I think against Brighton, if they come away with a point from there, people aren't kind of saying it was a poor performance. They really did limit a really good Brighton side again, who did very well against Liverpool in the build-up on good form. So yes, I think performance perhaps dipped from those 3 games, but the most important point at this stage really is to stop the rot, because those draws that even though the performances were improved, they weren't really picking up enough points. So credit has to be A, for the improvement from the first half and the second half. Gary O'Neill, he said to me about how they had made changes at the break, and my first thought was, apart from the Lerma coming off, which was an illness, but he talked about how they changed where Dongo Watara was kind of positioned, and I did look back and he was correct. So they were a little bit more braver, and they did kind of take a bit more pressure off the back, so the back three as it proved to be later on. So undeserved, no, just because I think if you defend that well and you get your goal, you're going to get 3 points in this league. That's the thing. No, it kind of sounds like sour grapes. There's been a few times Cherries have lost, and I've gone, yeah, Cherries weren't very good, but the other team haven't been very good. The Premier League isn't all it's cracked up to be. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to be slightly better than the opposition to get something. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think we weren't scintillating, we weren't brilliant. Not everything's been fixed, but we earned the win in my opinion, because it's all right to say, we should have lost. Wolves had all the ball and they just didn't score. Yeah, because we defended well, and you've got to defend well as well as attacking well, and we took our chance. I think Newcastle and Forest, we took the lead in both of them games, didn't we? And in both of them games we couldn't hang on. And it was just a moment from the opposition. This time, we didn't allow them to score. I think we earned the win. Wolves didn't do enough to win it, so you could make a case maybe for a draw, but they didn't test Neto enough. We weren't brilliant, but we done enough to win that game.
Was it me, or was Gary O'Neill in the post-match interviews and on the pressers, etc.? It seems to be almost more negative when we win, or maybe just underplays the win a little bit and is keen to focus on the things to fix. Whereas when we've lost games or dropped points, he seemingly focuses on the positives. I don't understand that, but that's just the way he is, I suppose. Yeah,
like I say, he's very aware of what, not necessarily exactly what he's saying, but how he comes across, and like you say, he knows after a game that he's slightly more emotional than he is pre-match. So you can tell that he definitely tries to rein himself in a bit, especially after a win like that. And it was a good win in context, wasn't it? And quite a few other managers might have bigged up their team. But he was very much on message, on brand, in terms of saying that I think he even said if they conceded in the 92nd minute, it still would have been a fighting performance, which you can't disagree with. He did sound a bit Scott Parkerish, kept on referring to fine margins. But the thing is with cliches, the reasons why cliches are cliches is because they translate information quickly, don't they? They're staples for a reason. So it looks like he's very keen to get the basics right, especially on the pitch, off the pitch. But yeah, he's a very measured guy. He's certainly not one. I know he quipped about not letting the players have a day off, and quite rightly. But yeah, he knows that it certainly isn't job done, or he's turned the ship around completely. He's very much just focused on the next game. I think he pretty much came out and was just already focused on the next big game. Didn't even give himself enough time to kind of focus on the match itself. So he's, like I say, hard working as well. That's the one thing. Again, like I said, I didn't really notice at the time, but the Watara change, he's very good at the little finer details that perhaps when you lose a game just gets completely lost. I felt against Brighton, first half especially in the match, Brighton very well, little tweaks and stuff. But when you lose, that gets forgotten because those little margins don't add up. But it's just the one score that counts, doesn't it?
In the Echo, you're writing up his words were, "You have to win more than one game to get a day off, lads." And he goes on to say they enjoyed the win, of course, because they've been working so hard the last few weeks, and I've been telling them that it's coming. And it's fair to say it felt like it was coming, and it was overdue, put it that way. And the win was celebrated by Bournemouth fans all over, including on the ice hockey rink.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Las Vegas Golden Knights with a Bournemouth flag. Right. Some more unpopular takes here, unpopular opinions, or popular, I don't know, whichever way you want to put it. This one has come in from someone anonymous, whoever that is. Players are working extremely hard. We're not sure that can be argued. However, are they having to work extremely hard to combat the fact that tactically and directionally it's completely lacking? And should they work that hard with a decent game plan, we might actually be nearer mid-table, Tom.
I can kind of see what they're getting at there. We are working hard, we are busting a gut, etc., etc. But there are times where I feel like what kind of is the plan all the time. But a lot of the time I do kind of feel like, in that first half, to be honest with you, it felt like we were just defending deep, get the ball and just kick it up the dom, and let's hope our players are quick enough to help in transitions. And there wasn't really much plan, just block stuff and then clear it. But it depends, because because like Jack was saying, it's all once you win a game, then you start going, okay, yeah, but if that's enough to win a game and you're just defensively solid and you nick something, then who cares? But yeah, I kind of get that point that there probably doesn't feel like. But then I do think that a lot of teams, you even look at like Everton now with Dyche, he's not going to come in with this massive philosophy. He's going to go be hard to beat, get set pieces, get balls in the box and nick goals, because we're not in a position
Just
to have some. Yeah,
style,
we're not in a position right now to have all this massive plan and philosophy. We need to just get results, and at the moment, that's the best way to get results. So, yeah, I guess once you've won, it feels alright anyway.
We also had an anonymous comment I'll put to you, Jack, and it sounds like it's someone on the inside, either in the media or someone that knows a little bit. But this person says Gary O'Neill has had his hands tied behind his back since the World Cup, with a lack of availability and a lack of luck / breaks / correct decisions. Behind the scenes, it seems that he is really good. The players do like him and the board are content. Performances in chunks of games have been good. With a chance to utilise the new signings and players coming back, he has got the ingredients, but he caveats this by saying, or he or she, he does think he could help himself with a bit more fire or emotion in his interviews. So it sounds like some people think that Gary Neal could well be the real deal.
Yeah, the last bit, Nathan Jones had a lot of passion and fire in his interviews, and that went down very well. Jesse Marsh as well is another who really grated Leeds fans with how he came across. And I think, like I said, Gary Neal, he's
Scott
measured.
Parker.
Yeah. He very much, I wouldn't say like media trained, but he knows that, yes, I guess technically is paid to speak to us, but that's not his main role. He very much says what he says with his players and focuses on them. And every time we speak to a player and stuff, like I spoke to Jay-Z after the Newcastle game, and he's very much, Gary O'Neill's the man still. It very much feels that there is confidence. And I think there has to be slight credit to like the back office in terms of, yes, I think there's still criticisms over how you get a short list of Gary O'Neill, Marcelo Bielsa and no one else. That's a bit weird. However, I think not the radio silence, but Blake's programme notes and then the comment afterwards. I think Cherries are very much aware, looking at the managerial market, there isn't really much you can do anyway at the moment. So rather than piling the pressure even further, they just kept it quiet and said, "Yep, carry on." Yeah. Because, like I say, I don't really think there's anyone that can come directly in and, like I said, in January, before kind of the clear out and players coming in, the squad was in a place where you couldn't really pick 11 players and say they can play this style of football. It was very much, you have some people that are more possession based, some people that are more counter-attacking. Kiefer Moore, again, like you mentioned earlier, I think can be effective at this level, but the amount of times that he's played, like Brentford at home, he was crossing in balls on the wing to where he should be.
Yeah.
He just, and you can't build a team around him at this level, which is fair enough, but again, the squad's just in such, Ben Pearson's another one.
Yeah,
It's bizarre. Yeah. I've completely forgotten about Kiefer Moore.
I know, he's been on the bench the
That's
last few
mad.
years, just don't come on, yeah.
You said his name, I was like, oh yeah, we've got him.
Yeah, it was, yeah, and don't get me wrong, the comment there, it makes sense in the terms that obviously we didn't have Dom, for example. That's why Kiefer was playing. He's a big player. Tavernier wasn't there. So we did have a few players out, and obviously now he's got some new signings. But I mean, I'm not being horrible, but I'd like to think I'd be a better manager if I got like 70 million quid spent on me. Do you know what I mean? Like, of course he's going to be a better manager now he's got new signings.
You'd
But
be all right.
yeah, but. No, yeah, the proof will be in the pudding when it will be. And I think I totally agree that now, I think a lot of people, well, I certainly think there is no one about that we could get now.
Yeah.
But I feel like after the World Cup or in that break, there were people about. Everton have proved that. And I think that's what frustrates people. But, you know, we know where we are now. We know where we're at. Let's be real. We ain't going to go anywhere. Let's get behind and get the basics right. And we showed that on Saturday.
We'll rattle on through a few more opinions. Here's one where we've got two contrasting opinions. Jake Martin says Lewis Cook is our best player by quite a long way too, but then on the other side of the spectrum, Andy Jennings said this is squarely in both the unpopular and controversial buckets, but are we better without Lewis in the team? Obviously, injuries are a massive part of why he hasn't gone on to be a really dominant midfielder, but are some of our current options better for the position we're in? I'll give that to you, Tom.
Yeah, I definitely don't believe Lewis Cook's our best player. I think Lewis Cook, technically, and as was mentioned there before his injuries, probably had one of the highest ceilings as a footballer. I think he's good enough to play for us, without doubt, without question. He's a very, very talented footballer. But at this current moment in time, Obviously, we don't want him injured. We want him available. This current moment in time, are we a better team without him? Potentially. I just think sometimes with Lewis, he doesn't really get assists. He doesn't score goals. And he's not a Jefferson Lerma defensive midfield player. And I think sometimes you kind of think, what's he doing? Do you know what I mean? And that's not trying to be disrespectful, because Lewis Cook's clearly a bloody good footballer. But right now, if he was suddenly 100% fit and back, he wouldn't get in the team. He wouldn't get in the team. Billing looks better now. Traore obviously gives you that option. So, yeah, I kind of don't disagree or agree with either, really, because I think he's a top player. Are we better without him? It'll remain to be seen. It's only been a few games, and we've looked marginally better. But yeah, I feel for him, because I think he could have. If he hadn't got the injuries, he wouldn't be with Bournemouth. In my opinion, he'd have gone on, because he was different level, and they've really hurt him. A few injuries, but I'm not missing him right now.
Just briefly, Tom, was it a mistake to let Pearson go? Because that's what Aaron Kay said. Was it a mistake? Wouldn't it have been better to have left Stan out, or maybe Stacey?
Stacey's not a bad shout. I didn't think of that one, actually. Yeah, I was thinking all along I couldn't get my head around it, because at the time I thought, well, one injury, and then we got one with Lewis, and now we're bringing on, like I say, fortunately he played well, but Lerma's coming off at half time, and we're having to bring on Joe Rothwell, who's more of because we haven't got anyone else. Stanislas, I mean, there's probably a 1% chance he'll be fit ever again, but even if he was now, look at the wingers. He ain't getting in the team. He's getting so I don't see why he's been registered. And then we've let Pearson, unless Pearson, we don't know. So Pearson might be banging on the door going, you let me out. And also, it's a good point about, I didn't think about it, Stacey. You got Smith, you got Fredericks, you got other players that could fill in at right back. Maybe Fredericks' injury concern is, and also we've got another goalkeeper that got registered. It did surprise me. The Pearson one on deadline day, it didn't surprise me with Dembele because of the wingers we brought in. But to register Stan and Brooks, who we'll see, I still don't believe he'll play as much as other people do. I can't believe we're light in defence. If Lerma gets injured, we've got no one that can play that role. So it really, really surprised me. What I will say is Billings dropped back, and he's actually done better than I thought he would, a bit deeper. So maybe that was the thought.
Rich Jackson, it's interesting. That was our worst performance offensively for the last 4 games, but it was the best defensively. Senesi looks settled, with Stevens much harder to break down from corners and set pieces. And he also goes on to talk about Adam Smith as well. But was it our worst performance offensively for the last 4, do you reckon?
Yeah, there have been elements of the counter-attacks that, like, a few times there's been, again, for a team that relies so much on that transitional play to attack. There's been moments over the past few weeks where, like, key moves have broken down because the pass wasn't good enough. I think from that aspect, yes. I think if you, again, it's clear now, O'Neill's even kind of admitted it, that is the direction they're going in. You have to get those moments right. Definitely more often than not. It kind of felt like every time, like, even Tavernier and Traore, they broke forward. Tav's ball to Traore was poor, but still just about managed to go, and then Traore just...
yeah. Definitely better definitely our best defensive, 100%.
But I think that goes back to the caretaker spell. There was a period where they looked a lot better defensively. Couldn't get a clicking going forward. Then they finally got a clicking going forward, attacking play, and then defensively they're poor. The Tottenham Leeds.
Tottenham.
And then they kind of worked it out again by Everton. Again, don't want to sound like Scott Parker, fine margins. What makes a poor defensive performance is, of course, conceding goals, especially like first half. Like I say, the amount of space like Nunez, for example, was getting in the area didn't fill me with too much confidence. But second half, especially. But again, we mentioned it before. If you play a City, Arsenal, Liverpool, as Parker went and tried to do, and sit deep and allow them to whip balls in, they'll just stretch you and find space. So it does, to me, seem that when it matches up nicely defensively, they look a lot better defensively, and when it matches up offensively, they look a lot better. For example, like against Newcastle confident came forward, that then leaves space for them to go attack on the break, so they will look more fluent going forward. So I think it depends on the opposition to make those comparisons. But yeah, I can't think you can disagree that out of the past 4, probably the best they've been defensively, but offensively, I think it was lacking.
And so, Newcastle and Wolves, I'd have taken 4 points from that. Absolutely, all day long. Speaking of Newcastle, Ian Hensman Ryan Fraser didn't owe us anything. He was
I'm out.
entitled, with the short career of a footballer, to look out for his own interests. Tom, I'll give that one to you.
Absolute load of rubbish.
Finishing in style, eh?
I don't. I hate the kind of Fraser would do what every other footballer done. Well, no, because that's never happened before with a COVID. Yeah. It's it's a very rare scenario, and you're basically asking a player that you've made. Eddie Howe brought him over from Aberdeen, young lad, sent him out on loan to Ipswich, which was brilliant. Brought him in, gave him all the success, gave him everything. Worked with Ryan. I mean, Fraser spoke about that when he first came to us. Gave him absolutely everything. And then we all asked of him can you give us a few months when we're in a relegation battle and we've got a lot of injuries and we really need you, mate? Yeah. Nah, because I might get injured. No, I'm never having that. Never will do. But I hope he's enjoying his spell on the... he didn't make the bench from the last game, by the way. So he might get a move to Hull next season and rejuvenate his career, maybe.
Love it. Just looking through a few tweets here. Mr. Suave said, deserved. We deserved it. You had one shot on target from a Wolves fan. It was a classic smash and grab.
There we go.
So he agrees.
He said it was, yeah.
With Jack Hannett, very fortuitous, said Mr. Suave. So what's your usual kind of week then? When it's like Saturday to Saturday games. Jack, is it like next thing's the presser, or there'll be a few like stories in the Echo, I'm sure, that reflect on the weekend and what's to come?
It was just me this weekend. So normally we have like the post-match presser, and some stories to come out of that, kind of get fed. And then we get to speak to a player, but by the time Gary and I were done the presser, I run down the tunnel, all the players are gone, probably off celebrating.
Yeah.
But yeah, it will be little bits. Like I said, still got some stuff from like Jordan Zamora that I didn't have the chance to run. Talking about his contract again, no update at the moment. But yeah, it's just we kind of not hoard stuff, but just also don't have the time to do it all, just to get out in the next few days. But yeah, probably we'll look at the Wolves game again and break down what needs to improve. But I think it's fairly obvious, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, probably some non-league.
Yeah.
See Paul Town on Tuesday. Hopefully, win for a Dorset team.
Yeah, that's right. And they've been drawn at home, haven't they, against Weymouth in the a toss of a coin in the senior. Yeah, love that.
Means I'm not trekking down to Weymouth.
Yeah.
Massive game.
Jack, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much. If you want to read Jack's work, well, this is the publication you need to be buying it in all good newsagents, but also on the bournemouthecho.co.uk website as well. Some really good stuff in there, so make sure you check out Jack's work. Jack, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. I've loved it.
Tom, any closing words, thoughts?
If you want to read my work, it's at TomJordan21 on Twitter. No closing words, but what should I say? Just buzzing, mate. We got to win. We got to win, and we've got 3 easy games now, so no dramas at all. But no, let's just get behind them now. It was I never mind when you watch a team that are giving everything, fighting for the cause. You can see that right till the end, and that's all we asked for. So was really delighted, and as I say, I felt we earned that because we've conceded some silly goals, etc., etc. But we defended well. We nicked the goal when we got it, and we thoroughly deserve that, mate. So bring on City for another smash and grab. 1-0 against City in the bag.
Let's do it. Thank you for watching, listening, however you've been absorbing this. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you on the next one. Up the cherries.
Up the cherries.